So Biden released his budget, and I want to show you the colossal, gargantuan, gigantic military portion. So take a look at this. So Jeff Stein says, the smaller tweet says, White House seeking $813 billion defense budget as part of broader budget request. In case you want to know which reporters actually were the first to report Biden's military ask, it was Bloomberg last week. Then he says, another way of putting this is that the White House wants to spend more than $8 trillion, $8 trillion over 10 years on the defense budget. God damn. $8 trillion. So let me give you more. This is in CNN. They say the following. President Joe Biden's proposed fiscal year 2023 Pentagon budget includes $813 billion in spending for national defense, a 4% increase of $31 billion from the spending package signed into law earlier this month. The Biden administration's defense budget remains focused on China as the primary strategic challenge, with an emphasis on strengthening European security in light of the threat posed by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Quote, if you look across the board at their capability, their economy, China remains our most challenging strategic threat. That's what the strategy says. That's what the budget says, a senior defense official told reporters ahead of the budget release. The Biden administration's proposal includes $773 billion in funding specifically for the Pentagon in the coming year. Congress, which will ultimately set spending levels for the federal government, is likely to boost that figure higher, just as it did in the fiscal year 2022 spending package. That's insane. Republicans quickly responded to the Pentagon's budget rollout by arguing it wasn't enough for the U.S. military in the face of Russia's attacks on Ukraine and China's military investments. Liberal Democrats, however, criticized the Biden administration for ramping up the defense budget at all. While the 2023 budget proposal was crafted before Russia invaded Ukraine last month, the Biden administration's defense budget recognizes the acute threat posed by Russia. Defense Department budget document says, Russia is pursuing a political, economic, and military strategy that seeks to fracture NATO, the Pentagon said. The defense budget includes $6.9 billion in funding for European deterrence initiative intended to counter Russian aggression and support Ukraine, funding that the White House touted in a fact sheet rolling out the entire federal budget proposal Monday. So, some more information about this. There's, let me get to my notes. So, a lot of the budget is for modernizing the military. That's what a lot of it's for. They also have a lot of money in there for research and development. They have nuclear updates in there, which is something that Trump got the ball rolling on, and now Biden is continuing down that path. And then we also have more money for the Space Force. The Space Force, which of course was mocked by, across the board by virtually anybody, even roughly in the Democratic camp, when Trump rolled it out, and now Biden is totally on board and into it. And so you have a big increase here. Now, one of the arguments from the Republicans is like, well, with inflation, this isn't even really an increase, but that's not true. It actually is an increase even with inflation. So it's not like you're just making up for inflation and that's it. No, you're still raising the price even when accounting for inflation, still raising the budget even when accounting for inflation. So what they're saying is not true. So the Republican psychopaths are like, this isn't even nearly enough, bro. Again, look at the price tag on it. Now, every time we talked about Build Back Better, which was actual social spending for regular people, people melted down over the price tag. And the media would only talk about how much it cost over a 10-year period, which is why you always said 3.5 trillion, 3.5 trillion, 3.5 trillion. Okay, but why do we never talk about it for the military that way? Notice, see, these are like the dirty little tricks used by the media. And I'm not saying it's on purpose. I'm not saying it's nefarious. It's just part of the culture. It's part of the conventional wisdom there. So you try to spin the military budget as more reasonable than it is. And you try to spin the Build Back Better proposal as the Build Back Better proposal, they try to make it sound like it's way too expensive and it's super nefarious, whereas they say with the military budget, it's less nefarious. Because you say, what do you mean? It's only like $800 billion. Yeah, but it's $800 billion every year over a 10-year period. Whereas for Build Back Better, it's $3.5 trillion over a decade. So if we use the same criteria, the same standard, it's $8 trillion for the military. $8 trillion. Now, by the way, if you really stop and think about it, it is kind of hilarious, isn't it? Because if there's any sort of hot war with Russia, it doesn't matter if you spend $8 trillion on the military, or $800 billion on the military, or like $8 on the military, or 8 cents on the military, because those nukes are going to be in the air and it's a wrap on all of us. So it doesn't really matter. All the small arms in the world, all the tanks, all the airplanes, they don't mean Dickie McGee's axe if we actually get into a hot war with Russia. So I find that massively ironic too, and that's not a point that people often make. It's like, what is even the point of spending all this? What's even the point of it? And the answer is, look, it's a profitable business. This is what the military-industrial complex is. You have jobs tied to this industry in all 50 states. So, and a lot of these companies, Raytheon, Boeing, Halliburton, Honeywell, these companies give campaign contributions to politicians, then politicians get in there, and as I scratch your back, you scratch mine, and then they, give them these contracts to build a shitload of tanks that we don't need and shitload of airplanes that we don't need, and our welfare in this country is warfare. Like, this is a gigantic industry in the United States of America. And again, nobody bats an eyelash. Nobody's going to say a goddamn thing about cost, and that's what drives me crazy. That's what drives me crazy. Because all you heard about was cost for Build Back Better. Now, what's the difference? The difference is Build Back Better was significantly cheaper, less than half as expensive as the military budget over a decade, and Build Back Better actually had good things for people. It had elder care, it had universal pre-K, it had free college, it had lower prescription drug prices, it had the extended child tax credit. It had all these things that actually help people. And all you heard was, oh my God, we can't afford it. Oh my God, it's so expensive. Oh my God, what about the deficit? I don't want to create an entitlement society, as Joe Manchin famously said. But for making weapons of death, where it's like, guys, this is a moral necessity. Nobody's talking about the price tag because why would you? We need this. Well, why is healthcare not a moral necessity for everybody? When we have 45,000 deaths every year because people don't have it. 30 million uninsured. Why is that not a moral necessity? I mean, it's just the priorities are so warped. The media is so terrible about talking about it. Now, just to put this in perspective for everybody, because, God, this is so important. So, again, we're talking $8 trillion over 10 years. $8 trillion over 10 years. How much would it cost per year to end homelessness, for example? Well, that number is anywhere from $20 to $40 billion. That's all it would take to end homelessness. $20 to $40 billion. How about free college? Anywhere from $50 to $100 billion for free college. How about universal pre-K? About $30 billion. We're told we can't do those things. That's pie in the sky. That's lefty nonsense. But, we could just dump $8 trillion down a black hole of endless militarism and yay, everybody's happy. Democratic president, massive increase in the budget, and they're going to increase it even more. It's truly astonishing. And then everybody's going to be too big of a cuck to vote against it because they don't want ads running against them saying they're soft on Russia, or soft on terrorism, or whatever. So they'll all buckle and vote for it. Most of them will, enough to pass it, that's for damn sure. What a broken system, man. What a broken system. Everybody go back and watch that Dwight Eisenhower speech, and it should give you chills for how prescient it is, talking about the military-industrial complex. That speech we need to strap down all of Congress and force them to watch it until they feel immense shame because they deserve it. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.